Hey, what's going on, Purple People podcast fans? Welcome to the show. My name is Kyle Smith. I am joined by Adam Carlson.
Yo.
And as always, Mr. Kyle West, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Adam, I like the hood. Are you cold?
No, I was just feeling like I got to Belichick it, especially since the Patriots are the only team that can seem to sit ahead of the Vikings in the power rankings.
I like it. I thought you were going to say because it's like 20 below outside. That's why you got the
I've
hood
actually
out.
got my window open, fan on. I love the cold.
Oh,
But since I was wearing a tank top, I figured I'll put on something a little bit more substantial because I don't want to be showing this much skin. This is not a pay-per-view podcast.
maybe we can get an Adam Carlson's hoodie parody Twitter account going. Do you think?
I'm still waiting for the Chris Thomason parody Twitter. I'm waiting for it.
You don't need one. His account is a parody in and upon itself. So I feel like
Vikings reporter who never fails to make us shake our head and just absolute what the hell. Why'd you have to start the show with that, Kyle? Now I'm angry. I hate that guy. Jumping into this show, this is episode number 283, if you can believe it, titled Goodbye 2017. BYE, because the Vikings got a first-round bye because we're the number 2 seed in the NFC, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, a week off from football. I got to admit, there's part of me that feels weird and would like to see the Vikings playing on Sunday. But, it definitely works out in the team's favor. So I think I can sacrifice a week without Vikings football for the Vikings to get a week off in the playoffs. Okay.
Right, less games that you have to win to go to the Super Bowl and to get that offensive line and other key players healthy. Like I'm with you, man. I didn't want to lose any of the momentum, but I don't think momentum's a thing that Mike Zimmer's going to let slip out of their hand. You know what I mean?
Well, the Vikings have won 11 of their last 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got some pretty good momentum.
I think right now it's important for this team to get a little healthy. Kyle Rudolph's been a little banged up. He needs a little bit of time. This is it's a good time for them to have that bye going into the playoffs, I think.
Absolutely. And there are several other teams, scary teams, especially from the NFC South, that are going to be – all three of those teams are playing this weekend, I believe.
Correct.
So, yeah, I mean, it's good to see them having to have to grind away, not getting to rest up their players, not getting time to strategize. And, of course, we won't know who the Vikings play in the divisional round until after Wild Card weekend. But for now, I'm sure that they are working hard but also resting up. There's got to be that good balance there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned Kyle Rudolph. I just had to jump in and give the offensive line some love. I'm ready to see Pat Elflein come back. He might be my favorite player from this year. So
that's what Sean Reynolds just said in the chat. Elflein's much needed. And to be honest, I was fine with Joe Berger moving to center. And at first I was a little skeptical about moving Mike Remmers from right tackle to right guard just because of how much they pay him. And, that Remmers does a good job at tackle when he gets a chance. But really, they made things work out. So the offensive line, it's good to have that kind of versatility and depth.
We've mentioned that several times on the show this season, just the offensive line and how important it's been. If we didn't, we'll talk about some of the shuffles later on when we recap the Bears game, which we won, by the way, in case you didn't see from the other day. But let's jump into some quick hits, and let's talk about Randy Moss and Steve Hutchinson because they are 2018 NFL Hall of Fame finalists, former Vikings players. I think they're both well-deserving. There's going to be some controversy if Randy Moss gets in and T.O. doesn't get in. Would
you like a bold take?
Let's hear it.
Neither one's getting in.
Neither Steve Hutchinson nor Randy Moss.
No.
I'm not going to say that I disagree with you.
Nope, it's going to be no Vikings getting in, especially since Jim Marshall is not getting in again.
Absolute blasphemy.
That's what makes me the most mad. I mean, I understand Randy Moss' first ballot not happening. That's okay, but Jim Marshall's been waiting forever. Makes me sad.
Yeah, we talked about this before in another show based off of his one bad memory, and I don't really know what else.
Well, if Joe Buck's a voter, he has one bad memory of Randy Moss.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of Randy Moss and tying that, that's a good tie around. But it's stupid stuff you think about. Like, I love Brett Favre. I love him. He's going to be my favorite NFL player of all time.
But he sent those dick pics.
Yeah, he's got picks and dick pics. Right. He led with interceptions. I mean, he threw 336 interceptions.
He did.
Come on, man. Like, you got to know nobody's going to be perfect. They can't all be Tom Brady's and Peyton Manning's. We understand that, but it's kind of like the Pro Bowl. People get snubbed every year. I think we would be used to it by now, but we can't be accepting of it.
We were talking about the offensive line a little bit, and Scott Schwab reminded me of something here in the chat, that Joe Berger believes this could be his last season with the Vikings. Of course, we've heard this quite a bit, but Berger's had one heck of a career. Tight end Kyle Rudolph came out and was talking about how Berger's playing at an extremely high level, and Schwab here in the chat reminded us that he played the most amount of Viking snaps this season. Old man Berger getting it done.
Can't say enough good things about Joe Berger. Transitioning from the offensive line to punters, because that's a super awesome transition.
Yeah.
Ryan Quigley was the only punter in the NFL who didn't have a touchback on a punt this season.
That is quite an interesting thing, because all the games went by, and for some reason, in my mind, I just always believe that touchbacks happen. They happen all the time. And in my mind, it's like I didn't even consider this stat until I saw it. And then I was like, really? And the number of times the Vikings were able to down the ball at the 1 or the 2 just says so much more about how the special teams work so hard and how Quigley has been able to be accurate on punts, even if he hasn't gotten a ton of distance. So at first I was skeptical. I thought Taylor Semink won the punter job, but Quigley has come in and he's given the Vikings solid field position.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about getting Jeff Locke back and making jokes a couple times, but as the sheets have unfolded, if you will, he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, not the distance that a lot of people would have wanted, but that accuracy, though.
I suppose I'd rather have an accurate punter, wouldn't you guys?
I can't complain. Field position is where it's at.
Yep.
Yeah, especially when you got a Vikings defense that holds everyone back on third down and the fewest yards and points per game. And
we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the chat telling us to shut up.
Which is a creative name. It's not creative at all.
I got a feeling this podcast wouldn't go very well if we just sat here quiet.
I'm not going to shut up, but thank you for input. Really appreciate that. We added 2 of these bullets, and I jumped in because I did not read these notes beforehand because we are a professional podcast and don't ever forget it. But this is one of my favorite ones because you hear every single week up until maybe this week about Adam Thielen's amazing journey to being one of the top receivers in the NFL. So he needed to reach 90 catches on the season to raise his salary from $750,000 to $1 million for next season. So going into this game against the Bears Sunday, he had 85 on the season. So he had to get 5 passes caught on Sunday. He actually finished with 6. So he had 91 catches on the season. I think for like 1276 or something like that for the year and 4 touchdowns. So if you like Adam Thielen news, this is a pretty heartwarming one. And I think it's well-deserved. I mean, we can all sit back and say, man, these guys get paid so much money, blah, blah, blah. But to see where he came from to where he is now and just how good he actually is pretty sweet. So congrats.
We were actually talking about this a little bit before the show about how we love players that are willing to bet on themselves. Like Jarius Wright, who when he took a restructured deal to make less money and he'd get bonuses to make more money if he appeared in games. Hey, I mean, it's fantastic that these players are willing to put that kind of money on themselves and come out ahead. To me, that's fantastic.
Did anyone even know that Jarius had restructured his contract?
Not until quite later.
Yeah, because I don't remember talking about that before the season or anything until it broke, like a week or so ago?
I want to say, about a week, 2 weeks ago, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it kind of came up, but I don't remember hearing about that at all. So it's kind of cool that they kept that under wraps. And
I think in the back of Jarius's mind, he knew that he was better than Laquan Treadwell, and he's going to get the nod to catch third down balls.
Yeah.
I believe so, too.
Sorry, I didn't mean to poop on Laquan Treadwell. And he's not my donkey this week, surprise. Because I've been handing that out like candy the last 2 weeks. But, yeah, I like that. Like you said, betting on yourself. That's a good way to put it, Adam. I like that.
Absolutely.
Here's a guy I think that would this is for Kyle. Here's a guy, Latavius Murray. I think he's one of those guys that would bet on himself. Man, he started out cold this year, but he's been warming up real hot towards the end of the season in the second half. So much so he was nominated, didn't win for
No.
FedEx Ground Player of the Week in Week 17. Murray had 111 yards and a touchdown.
2 touchdowns.
I'm sorry, 2. I didn't mean to take that away from him.
But he lost to Orleans Darkwa, who had 154 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. So I guess
What team is that? What team does he play for?
the Giants, right?
Oh, wow.
I have no idea. You could have made that name up for all I know.
Latavius Murray also finished with 8 rushing touchdowns on the season, which was one of the things that I noticed from last year. He had a very similar season that he had in Oakland last year. He didn't break 1,000 yards. He got close. He finished in the 800 range, I think the upper 800s this year for us. And he's just been known to just run the ball in. So pretty good year for him. I'm glad to see him get some recognition.
He turned out to be a pretty good pickup from Minnesota. I think early on we were all kind of a little worried. We weren't getting, he fumbled right away. But he seems to have picked up and got his stride, and he's turned into quite a reliable player for the Vikings.
It's weird. Like around week 2 or 3, there were other Vikings blogs that were out there talking about how Latavius Murray's signing for Minnesota was one of the biggest mistakes of the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird how fast things change. It really is.
Let's take that perspective. We'll give him the benefit and say week 3. We're 2-1, and Case Keenum's in, and now everything is shifted.
And Dalvin Cook's looking good.
And Dalvin Cook's looking great, like you said. Some people were even saying that he might have been running back number 3 on the depth chart, Latavius Murray, that is. And then you turn around at the end of the year, he doesn't let that rattle him. And it's another thing that you learn after watching football for a while is a guy's got to get a little bit of a stride and a rhythm going. And then
especially for a running back.
Yeah, he's not just going to step in and break it for 80 yards on 2 carries. But that's pretty cool. And then, like I mentioned, Case Keenum in there. A lot of us were like, well, this season's over with. Case Keenum can make a case for MVP as well. It just shows you how crazy it turns around from like week 2 or 3 to where we're sitting at now.
Absolutely.
Next quick hit is the Vikings signed Minnesota native wide receiver Brandon Zylstra from Concordia Moorhead to futures contract. I know nothing about this player, but I'm excited for him.
Futures contracts are nice. You can lay down a little bit of money and kind of put a retainer on a player that you want to kind of put on the practice squad or bring into training camp. And I guess I don't watch a lot of college football, and I especially don't watch a lot of Concordia Moorhead football. So I'm like you guys. I don't know much about Brandon Zylstra, but I always like talented players coming to the team, and people seem excited about this kid. So I'm interested to see what he can do.
But just know that the Purple People podcast is probably one of the very few, if the only place you're going to hear about Brandon Zylstra. You're welcome.
Hey, he could be the next big thing for the Vikings. You never know.
Galactus says this new guy has been good in the CFL, hasn't he? I thought I read that, and I have not read that. But if that's true, that's great.
Well, there's the gap right there. That's a break in the silence that I was looking for.
Got to keep it awkward, man.
This next one really sucks, and actually, we're just going to tie the next 2 together because this is inevitable. We've talked about it, I think, last week or the week before. In recent weeks, the Vikings have had an amazing season. They have the number 1 defense in the NFL. Just outside of the top 10, I think they're number 11 offense. And when you have both of those, you're probably going to do pretty damn good, as we have done. We're tied with the best record in the league. We're number 2 in our conference. Power rankings have had us at number 2, just behind the Patriots, like Adam said recently. And with all this, you're going to have looks at the guys that are under Mike Zimmer. Yes, Mike Zimmer is the captain of the ship, but Pat Shurmur and George Edwards have already gained attention. And I would like to know this for you guys in the chat. I'm all about these guys getting an opportunity because obviously people like Mike Zimmer didn't get a chance for a while. Maybe they'll have great careers outside of the NFC North, I hope. But I think they should wait until the season is over with to do these because you have a lot of time to do that so we can get full focus on the playoffs.
I think it would have been respectful to wait until after the Vikings, had taken care of their business.
But you see what happened, and I'll go with George Edwards first because we have a lot of blue chip players, as they call blue chip, meaning your starter Pro Bowl caliber players. George Edwards is set to interview with the Chicago Bears for a head coaching position as well. Mm-hmm. He's gotten 1 look, and this is not so surprising because George does a great job on the defensive side. But Mike is the mastermind, not to take anything away from
George Edwards does a great job executing Mike Zimmer's vision, working in practices, and helping players to stay on the top of their game. So for me, it's not a shocker to see that people are interested in him, but I would also kind of be skeptical about having him as a head coach or even a defensive coordinator without having a really good defensive mind above him.
A good defensive mind, and if you guys listen to the Herd with Colin Cowherd, he said that he believes we have the best roster in the NFL, which was a great compliment. I think from top to bottom, you have some really, really good players. Maybe not some worldwide names.
Them blue chippers.
The George Edwards thing to me kind of goes back to the John Gruden picking up just a talented team. You wonder if he can pick up a talented team and keep going forward, or if you hand him a roster full of crap, if he's going to be able to turn it around. But tying in what we were talking about earlier with Pat Shurmur, he's gotten looks from the Lions and the Cardinals and Bears on Friday, the Giants on Saturday. With what he's done, and I won't say that the offense is full of bums, but we do have a lot of, I would say, second-string guys maybe that we were looking at coming in. Nobody in the NFL said, man, I think my running back number one would be Jerick McKinnon. Or, man, Stephon Diggs, that fifth-rounder, that's a solid wide receiver number one. But what he's done collectively with all these players on offense, it's freaking crazy because we were average at best last year, and we're right outside the top 10 now. So he's got a lot of meetings. It's 4 that I'm reading right now so far.
I think the smartest thing that Pat Shurmur did was when he took over for North Turner is that he looked at what the team did well, and he kept what they did well and kind of threw out parts that they didn't and added to it, instead of coming in and wanting to say, we're going to throw everything out because it's not my system, and we have to run my system and we have to throw everything else out new and start over. Is that, from what I've read, is that he kept a lot of the same terminology for play calling, so they didn't have to relearn how to recall plays, and they kept in what they did well and focused on improving that while adding to it. And I think that is a really smart, intelligent thing for an offensive coordinator to do. I think
there are things that people are forgetting about Pat Shurmur. 15 months ago, he was the tight ends coach for the Vikings.
Yep.
He was brought on to help the tight ends be better blockers. And he couldn't get even a look as an offensive coordinator around the league. So he had to accept a job as a tight ends, a positional coach.
Mm-hmm.
So 15 months it's a quick turnaround to go from a positional coach to a head coach, even though Shurmur has done it before. I know that you can be impressive in a short span, and what the Vikings have been able to do on offense with their personnel has been great. But I'm not sure if I'd be ready to gamble as much as other teams are. I mean, Shurmur's a hot commodity around the league. A lot of teams very interested in him when his phone wouldn't even ring 15 months ago.
Yeah, I find that interesting too, but isn't that kind of just a byproduct of the Vikings having a really good season?
I believe it definitely is.
Yeah, and then also I think too that you look at Chicago and Detroit interviewing the Vikings coaches, how much are they just trying to get to know, the Vikings, see if they can get some information out of them somehow, accidentally, doing a little scouting.
Man, we could spend a whole segment talking about this coaching stuff because it's so weird. John Gruden's going to be the head coach. He had an interview today. It's confirmed. He's going to take the job in Oakland. He hasn't coached in like 9 years.
We could talk about Cincinnati keeping their head coach.
Marvin Lewis, I wish I had an employer that loved me that much for not doing my I get it that you can get to the playoffs, which is hard to do, but at some point you got to get out of that stalemate and stop plateauing, and you got to win a game. You can't keep getting beat every year by the T.J. Yates-led Houston Texans. And you're definitely not going to beat the Deshaun Watson-led Houston Texans next year. So that's really weird, but
he got the Bills to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean,
talk about winning when you don't need to. Oh God! If you guys didn't hear it too, congratulations to Buffalo. I know we poop on the Jags a lot here because it's fun to poke fun at the Jaguars, but the Bills' drought is over. They're going to the playoffs. You can see them play Sunday, and they haven't been since 1999.
I loved watching the videos on the internet.
The fans are brutal,
and the Bills' locker room watching the game, just all that stuff. So amazing. Like, that moment for fans had to be just great.
And a lot of people are saying, too, and I'm going to take this time to make it a 10-second Bills podcast. A lot of people are saying the Jags are going to throttle them. Hold the phone, because you just got the shit kicked out of you by the by the 49ers.
The Jags are going to throttle them.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I hope not.
But I'm sure we'll talk more about our predictions for Wild Card Weekend here coming up.
Yes, we will. Let's move along. Sorry, I had to jump in. I'm so excited for the Bills fans. The Vikings have announced their regular season opponents for next year. At home and away, obviously, we will play the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers. Our home opponents, the Cardinals, the 49ers, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Saints. Away games, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Eagles.
That's a rough schedule right there.
That's what happens when you finish 13-3 in the top of your division. You play
the best, man.
Yeah, you got to play the best. So,
and the Jets. You play the best and the Jets.
That's interesting. I'm going to hit these really quick, too. The Cardinals, if you guys didn't hear, Bruce Arians left. Carson Palmer retired as well.
No clue what's going on with Larry Fitz.
Yeah, he said he's extended one more year, but with all these changes, who knows if he'll stay.
We have no idea.
Are going to be sneaky next year. I'll go ahead and make a prediction.
Yeah, sure.
Year. I believe they're going to sneak in as a wild card because Jimmy Garoppolo looks good.
Does.
The Bills made the playoffs this year. We'll see about next year. I don't know what the hell's going on in Miami.
If the Dolphins can get Tannehill back healthy, they've got a decent defense.
They've got
good wide receivers. I mean, they can win games.
The Saints will have at home again. I like all these. I like all these games at home because I feel like if you're looking at our away schedule versus our home schedule, I think the home schedule is actually easier. If you're looking at based on wins from this year and the situation going on.
The Vikings have a true home field advantage for the first time in maybe forever. I feel really like we can beat anyone at home at US Bank Stadium.
Knock on wood.
It's going to be interesting, and the road goes through Minnesota unless somehow Philadelphia is able to hold on until the end of the conference championship. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
Like we said for the away games, we always play the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers. This is where it gets tough, guys. The Rams. Yeah, we did a pretty good job against them this year, but I think they're about a year away from figuring stuff out if they keep it going in the right direction. The Seahawks, I don't know why we can't find a way to win in Seattle. They're always hard to play.
The Seahawks have a lot going on right now, man. The rumors are that Cam Chancellor's retiring, Cliff Avrill's retiring.
Yep.
The Legion of Boom ain't going to be as booming as it used to be.
There were rumors about Pete Carroll. Now, it looks like he might be sticking around, but you never know.
That would be crazy. If they lost Pete Carroll, I think they would lose the heartbeat of that team.
Yeah.
He's a very good ferret. Somebody's changing it to parrots. Oh, that's funny. Here's my least favorite game of next year, but hopefully it'll be a rematch of the Super Bowl. We have to go to the Patriots, which is never fun.
That's tough.
Yeah, that sucks.
Foxborough. Never easy to win there.
No. The Jets. Don't sleep on the Jets. I know it sounds weird, but they can be pesky. They've got a really good defense.
If the Jets can get their quarterback situation figured out and everything, I think they could be all right.
And Carson Wentz, even though I don't know when this game is going to be because we don't know the dates of these games. Carson Wentz will be back for the Eagles. So if this is later in the year, we will see what could have been the MVP this year had he not torn his ACL. So that's a hard away schedule.
Yeah, it's an all-around tough 2018 schedule.
We have Sergio Moreno in the chat, and he says he wants to see a Bills-Vikings Super Bowl battle of the 0-4. Someone will finally win. I like it.
I would feel very comfortable playing the Bills. I would like that as well. Let's go through these last couple of quick hits just to talk about players. Added these in at the end. If you guys were in the Discord chat with us, you saw a couple of these. Little fun facts about a couple of our players, and then we'll end it with some unfortunate news about one of our players who went on IR. Trey Waynes finished as the best run-stopping corner. He had 15 stops against the run. If you didn't watch the game Sunday, he had a hell of a game and showed a lot of signs of improvement. And we just kept making fun of the joke in the chat there. We should just cut him. He's much improved, and he's finally doing his job. Nope, let's cut him. So congrats to Trey Waynes. It's kind of like when Captain Munnerlyn was here. Is like, I'm the best nickel corner in the league, and people would laugh. Like, well, I mean, it is something to take some pride in if you can stop the run, especially for how small he is. Now we all know he's fast, but he's pretty small, slender guy. But congrats to Trey Waynes. That's a cool little stat and nugget to hang on to. The next one is about Stephon Diggs. He was the highest rated wide receiver over the season when it came to production in the red zone. I think this was a minimum of 25 targets. So obviously he didn't catch a ton of touchdowns. He did catch his career high this year. But being within those 20 yards, he's pretty damn reliable. And according to Pro Football Focus, he's the most reliable. So that's pretty cool. I always love those stats. The unfortunate news before we talk about the Bears and the Vikings game in Week 17 is long snapper Kevin McDermott is on IR for the rest of the season. If you didn't watch the Packers game a couple weeks ago, David Morgan had to fill in because I believe he tore up his shoulder. Replacing him will be Jeff Overbaugh. So that's your new long snapper on the Vikings roster.
Yeah, Overbaugh coming in. When the long snapper got hurt, David Morgan filled in and did some long snapping duty, and he did all right. So if something happens, I'm feeling pretty good about the backup long snapper too. So good stuff.
Yeah, and his replacement looked like he did fine against Chicago as well too. I was trying to pay attention as much as you can to the long snapper, and it seemed like the ball was right where it needed to be, right on time. I didn't see any issues, with it being bobbled or whatever. So looks like they found a good replacement for him.
He did an admirable job. So let's jump into this game against the Bears.
We beat Chicago.
Yes, we did. We finished the season at 13-3.
Minnesota Vikings defeated the Chicago Bears 23-10 in front of the crowd at US Bank Stadium. It was a game that didn't have a ton of action. There were some nice highlights throughout, though. But Let's talk about some of the team stats first. Well, let's go team stats second after we do Game Ball Donkey. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Let's go for it.
Kyle West doesn't have his stuff down, but both Mr. Smith and I went with Kai Forbath as our donkey. We should have actually gone with the clock management that led up to Kai Forbath having to attempt a 55-yard field goal. And it's really nitpicky for us to pick a kicker for missing a 55-yard field goal. But, this is a game where not a lot went wrong for Minnesota. So we had to pick something.
Well, I went with Pam Oliver for showing up to work sick.
Aww.
I mean, come on. You're going to get all your colleagues sick? Don't do that.
Are you sure it wasn't Josina Anderson?
I'm pretty sure. I know who Pam Oliver is.
That's an inside joke there. Sorry, guys.
We are not a cheap podcast. We'll just say that.
So I felt for Pam Oliver, man. On the sidelines, it just got to suck to work sick.
Stay home. I'm sure you got health insurance.
And then after the game, she's talking with Case Keenum, and I'm sure he's like covering his face. Don't make me sick, please.
That's fine.
Don't make our quarterback sick for the playoffs, please.
For my game ball, I went with David Morgan. I like David Morgan a lot. Excellent blocking tight end. Got to show off some of his receiving skills. He had a nice one-headed snake that was in front of him and kind of low. Just pulled it right in. I enjoyed watching him play this game.
Yep, Kyle Rudolph's been banged up a little bit. He's still been pushing through, which I gain a lot of respect for Kyle Rudolph for, because a lot of people say, he doesn't do very good after he catches the ball. He doesn't try to fight in traffic, but he's been pretty damn tough this year because he's battled some injuries. But David Morgan, holy crap. He's our backup too, man. He's showing out these last couple of weeks.
He's good, man. He's good.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I also went with David Morgan, who I thought has improved quite a bit this season and has turned into a reliable pass catcher as well as just a blocker. I felt like when he was first brought in, he was just out there to block and to help out the run game, and he's showing that he is sneaky athletic. He had a really funny tweet that he sent out. It was a retweet from a fan that sent it to him that was like, David Morgan looks like a really excited fan that showed up early to tailgate, and the Vikings were like, just put him in pads and put him out on the field.
So apparently David Morgan has a nickname in the locker room now.
What is it?
Diamond Dave.
I like it.
I mean, David Lee Roth, he's got the hair and everything, so why not, right?
Yeah, go for it.
Makes me think of Diamond Dave from that crazy video a long time ago that was really cool on YouTube, right before YouTube got popular. Diamond Dave School for Ninjas, where you beauty chop people.
I got to say, you're losing me on this one.
I don't know what you're talking about.
If you guys know about it in the chat, tell Adam about it. But yeah, it's pretty much this redneck guy, and he made it. It was a spoof, but he has like a fake cape on at home. He's like Diamond Dave's Ninja School, Judy Chop. And it's terrible. It's more along Napoleon Dynamite-esque kind of stuff.
Nice.
Bad. But
Scott Schwab in the chat gave his donkey to the negative 20-degree weather and having to wait for his hotel shuttle for 45 minutes.
Ooh.
I can see how that would be donkey worthy.
Yeah, that's not pleasant. Remember when they wanted to have an outdoor stadium in Minnesota and everyone was initially like, yeah, that would be a good idea. No.
I got a notification.
We need that rough.
NBC, I forget what podcast did it, but it was about a 9-minute interview with Adam Thielen. And he was like, hey, let's talk about this new stadium. Wouldn't you want to play outside and have an advantage? And he said, absolutely not. So I can imagine if you're freezing your rear end off sitting in the stands and you're not moving around keeping your body warm, but I'm sure the players are feeling your pain as well.
I know one guy that would not mind an outdoor stadium in Minnesota at all, and his name's Bud Grant.
Yeah.
So good. They talked about that. Bud Grant's a badass.
Probably walking around with no shirt, no sleeves on during all this.
Let me jump in and throw my game ball in real quick, and we can do these stats. I gave mine to Trey Waynes because
good call.
He didn't have a lot of tackles. He had one solo and then one combined, but he had 2 passes defended. We talked about it in the Discord chat, and like we said earlier, we're poking fun at it. Like, nope, cut him. He's terrible. This guy's finally rounding into his own. I feel really solid about him maybe starting a game and then having Terrence Newman come in to relieve him when he can. And then you keep that transitional role for a guy like Terrence Newman who's still playing very, very well. And I don't feel worried about, oh, man, they're going to pick on Trey Waynes now that he's in the field. You know what I mean? I think he's finally rounding into his own, and he had some splashy plays. Shout out to the Vikings defense, though. I know Adam's going to run through this, but this is a crazy stat. Well, only 1 sack, 5 tackles for loss, but they had 6 passes defended against Mitch Trubisky on Sunday. That's pretty awesome.
One of the things about Trey Waynes that I always say that I always mention every show, so I'll do it again. Trey Waynes needed time. A lot of cornerbacks, especially the more handsy, physical cornerbacks, need time to adjust to the NFL because it's a completely different beast. You're not going up against those college wide receivers. These are, you're facing off against the best of the best with a whole different set of rules. And even, Xavier Rhodes needed time to develop. It took Terrence Newman a while to adjust, and now he's one of the most solid players in the league. And let's be honest, behind them, do you really want Tremaine Brock coming in the game?
No. No, I do not.
That's where things get scary. The depth at cornerback is what scares me. So when during this Bears game, Xavier Rhodes was kind of limping around and struggling to stay healthy, even though the game was still like a 1-score game, it's like, get him out of there. Get him healthy.
Oh, so
let's run down the team stats now that game balls and donkeys have been given out. The Bears only picked up 12 first downs the entire game compared to 21 for Minnesota. Minnesota dominated the time of possession 35-55 to 24-05. The Bears only picked up 201 total yards of offense compared to 327 for the Vikings. And these stats just don't even really do a great job of talking about how dominant Minnesota was. The main thing where Minnesota has been great all year is defensively on 3rd down, and this game they did it again between 3rd and 4th down, 1 and 14 on conversions for Chicago.
That's got to be really frustrating if you're a defensive player for Chicago because you're essentially on the field all day long.
You are.
You are really frustrated, and those are the frustrations that come with a rookie quarterback. Now, granted, he was a number 2 overall pick, so they saw something in him that they loved.
I think he'll be a good player.
Yeah, I do too.
They just gotta find the right weapons to put around him.
I think Mitchell Trubisky would be good, not great.
Yeah,
I could see him being an Alex Smith.
I could see him being an Andy Dalton.
The beige water pistol.
Andy Dalton's good, not great. But this was a clean football game. No turnovers happened in the game, which is interesting considering Mitchell Trubisky was going up against a pretty stout Vikings defense. But, yeah, I mean, as a whole.
Well, but they got the safety on him.
Right.
Yeah, almost 2. Almost
Kyle,
that
Kyle
second
was rooting
safety.
for that second safety.
I really wanted that
really
4 point flip
weird
on the board.
score.
I like that. Weird scores are fun.
Weird scores are fun.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Minnesota's stats from this game. We're going to run through this kind of quick because we want to talk more about the playoffs than the past here.
Mhm.
So let's run through this. Case Keenum was 21 of 29 for 189 and 1 touchdown. He was sacked twice for 9 yards, QBR 71.4, and a rating of 101.1. Latavius Murray led the way for the running backs, 20 carries for 111 yards with 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Jerick McKinnon carried the ball 12 times for 44 yards. The only other rushing attempt not by a quarterback was Stephon Diggs, who lost 8 yards on a jet sweep reverse kind of dealy. Receiving, Stephon Diggs caught the only touchdown for Minnesota in the game. That was done through the air. 6 catches, 65 yards. Meanwhile, Adam Thielen added 6 for 61. David Morgan 3 for 35. Laquan Treadwell 3 for 16. C.J. Ham 1 for 6. Rudolph 1 for 3. Latavius Murray 1 for 3. And Jerick McKinnon did not catch his 1 targeted pass. Poor Jet. And let's talk about the defensive stats here. Harrison Smith and Ben Gedeon led the way with 6 tackles each. Nice to see Ben Gedeon getting a little bit more playing time during this game.
Mm-hmm.
Fun to see. Up next was Anderson Dejo and Anthony Barr with 5 each. And then at 4, we have Xavier Rhodes, Eric Kendricks, Linval Joseph. Sacks, there was only the one, and it was Brian Robinson.
Way to go, old man.
And he did catch and release that sack. Passes defended, like you said, they were all over the place. Trey Waynes had 2. Everson Griffin got 1. Xavier Rhodes had 1. Sendejo had 1. Harrison Smith had 1. It was quite a party, and the Vikings were able to hit Mitchell Trubisky 4 times, Linval Joseph twice, Brian Robinson with the 1 when he got the sack, and 1 from Everson Griffin. Move on to special teams. Marcus Sherrills returned 1 kick for 24 yards, where he should have taken a knee because team touchback is where it's at. Punt returns. Marcus Sherrill, 7 of them for 51 yards. Not too shabby. Kai Forbath missed his 55-yard field goal attempt, but converted on all 3 extra points. So you got to give what you take here. And finally, Ryan Quigley, 8 punts for 358 yards, an average of 44.8. 5 of those 8 punts inside the 20, a long of 56. It was a really good day for Ryan Quigley.
Yeah, the game, I felt like if you just looked at the score, you might think it was closer than what it was. But I really felt watching the game live that was a dominant performance by the Vikings. And at no point did I ever feel threatened by Chicago in that game. Did you guys?
I never even felt like Minnesota was giving it 100%. I mean, the players looked like they were running around and, just faster than usual, but I didn't feel like the team had the aggressive nature that I would have liked to have seen heading into the playoffs. I know Chicago, and if you're listening to any Bears fans, I'm sorry, but the Bears are an inferior team to the Vikings this season. Minnesota should have cleaned the floor with them. Instead, they kind of let them hang around, ran the ball a lot more than they probably would have if they were trying to put the game away. We're a little conservative with some players they wanted to take care of heading into the playoffs. So, yeah, the Vikings probably could have blown them out of the water.
Yeah, although I do think it was smart for them to kind of ease up a little bit. We don't want players getting hurt going into the playoffs. The worst thing that could have happened would have been Xavier Rhodes got hurt in this game against Chicago, and we don't have him for the postseason.
Agreed.
That would have been devastating.
I was talking about it too. I agree. If you guys were in the chat with us Sunday, I wanted to see us throttle the Bears, not because it's like, oh yeah, suck at Chicago. I wanted to see what this team can do when they're at 100% and to kind of make a statement out there and be like, hey, you got to come here and you got to play against this. But the greedy fan in me wanted to see Teddy Bridgewater play again, if I'm being honest.
That's divisional weekend, we're going to see that 100% play.
You betcha.
And I'm excited to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of divisional weekend.
Hold on really quick. Your dog is really popular in the chat, and you should probably introduce him.
Oh, hey, guys. So I don't ever. They'll have to tell me. I'll get involved with the chat more. I really, honestly don't know how it goes. Do we have to go to our YouTube channel and then mute it really quick? Is that how it works?
Yeah, or you pull it up in a separate window as well too.
That's what I would do. I'll start doing that. I'll make sure to bug the guys next week. So, if you guys didn't know before, a little quick hit. I had a dog that I used to handle. I had to put him down last year, so I had like a 6-month gap there where it was really quiet. I was like, man, I need another dog. So I'm in El Paso, Texas. I go down to the animal shelter one day, and we have the Humane Society and the shelter. I go to the shelter first, can't find a dog. I look at like 6 dogs. I go over and meet this guy, and this is a really dark and morbid joke. Please don't think that because I deal with dogs at my work. But I swear, if you look at him and how he's acting, if he had thumbs, he looked like he would kill himself. Like, he's very much an Eeyore type of dog. He's very submissive. I think somebody used to beat him before I got him. But this is my boy Bronx. He is 3 years old, and he just got back today. We all got back from Charlotte. He actually flew home. So it looks like he's a little jet lagged.
He's loving that light on his face over there.
That's my spot on the couch when I watch TV here right beside me. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen, I moved the computer in my room out of my little area in there, and I'm in the living room.
I can tell.
It looks pretty. I think it's a better background, but this dog took my only spot on this big sectional. But that's really cool. You guys like him in the chat, man. He's
the good news is that you love dogs more than the Dolphins GM does.
Oh, yes, we get to talk about that.
That was terrible. I don't ever want the Dolphins to win anything now.
Okay, guys, before we tell you this story, if you ever get around a lady or a guy or whoever you're attracted to, if you're awkward and you want to make a comparison or an analogy, don't make one like this. This was too much. Adam, please tell them this because it had me scratching my head as to why. All you can do when you hear this is ask, why?
So the Dolphins GM held a press conference, right, to announce all the stuff at the end of the year.
Sure.
And he said that head coach Adam Gase would kill his dog if that's what it meant to get his team in the Super Bowl.
No. No.
That's not how you get to the Super Bowl, guys.
No.
You've been doing it wrong.
Yeah, first of all, no.
What is going on in Miami? You got coaches doing drugs on camera, murdering canines. What if the fuck, Miami?
That booger sugar makes you say some crazy stuff, man.
I guess.
Yeah, for the record, I love the Minnesota Vikings. I have a almost 8-month-old son now, and I'm a huge fan of dogs. I would not harm either one of them to make the Vikings win a Super Bowl.
So, thank you.
That's good.
I'm not a piece of crap. I don't know why you would say that. I understand that you want to say, well, I'd do anything. But maybe don't say it at a press conference.
Meh.
And to think we could have a whole football and dogs podcast.
We could.
No dogs will be
harmed
during the making of this podcast. If this ever happens, no dogs will be hurt. Oh, that's cool. We got to talk about that. I was like, what the hell? What did I just read?
This is outrageous.
I got some stuff I want to get out of the way here before we talk about the next week for the Vikings. I want to get in the Survival League because we will not have a three-peat champion.
Oh, no.
Craig
darn
eliminated in Week 17 when he picked the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington Redskins to win. Meanwhile, we still have 2 teams alive heading into Wild Card Weekend, Purple Skull Nation and Whimsical Cat Sitter. And we will see what works out here. We're back into the situation now where it's 1 team per week. So it's going to be a little easier on these guys. But again, as it keeps going, they're going to have to try to pick the teams that they believe will win, but not the ones that'll win real far down the road,
And playoffs are so unpredictable.
Exactly.
So unpredictable.
So, yeah, it should be interesting.
Which is why we're going to predict them later on in the show.
Yeah. But congrats to those 2 for making it through, and best of luck to you going forward. Now, let's talk about Wild Card Weekend. NFC looks real interesting.
It's going to be a good one.
Of course, Eagles and Vikings are on byes after 13-3 records. The interesting part is where you have the Rams taking on the Falcons, and then you've got the Panthers taking on the Saints. To me, the game to watch here, and the one that I'll be keeping the closest eye on, is Rams-Falcons, because I'm going to be a little honest here. The Saints scare me, and I would like to see the Vikings hold off on playing the Saints as long as possible and see if another team can knock them out, because they just seem to have so much figured out right now. For as hot as the Vikings are, the Saints have just so much going for them.
Yep. Much removed from week one. I know we kind of beat the crap out of the Saints. They started with their feature back as Mark Ingram, and then Adrian Peterson was backing them up. Now those two are very irrelevant. One is not playing this season, and he's technically an Arizona Cardinal. But their running game is astounding. Fun fact that went over the weekend, both of their running backs together got over 1,500 yards. And the Vikings were right behind them as far as running back tandems. We were in the 1,300s, which is crazy because we have Jared McKinnon and Latavius Murray. But I'm with you 100%, Adam. I do think we can beat the Saints because they'll have to come to us. And I like us versus everyone at home. But the Saints have gotten to figure it out with the running game. Their defense has not been suspect like the last couple of years. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I feel pretty comfortable about the Falcons or the Rams coming to us. So I hope it's one of the two.
Yeah, if the Rams can beat the Falcons, then we'll see the Rams. Otherwise, it's going to be the winner of the Panthers and the Saints. The Vikings won't even have a shot at playing the Falcons since they are the lowest seeded team in the NFC. So it's going to be one of those other three teams, and I'm hoping that it's going to be the Rams. I'm hoping.
I kind of want revenge on Carolina because there's no way we should have went there and lost to that team.
I don't believe in Carolina at all right now. I
watched them this weekend, and my mom.
They seem out of it.
Yeah, it was a playoff implication game. They went down, and I'm going to tell you, I know a lot about Cam Newton just from being around Charlotte and paying attention and hearing a bunch of stuff from friends, especially on Facebook. You know, I know you guys are from around Minnesota. You probably hear a lot of stuff from there, or Green Bay, or Chicago, or whatever. I hear nothing but Panther stuff. I watched Cam Newton play on Sunday. I will honestly speak for the guy and tell you he didn't look like he gave a shit about playing football on Sunday. And I hate teams like that, and I hate players like that because they went into Foxborough and wiped the floor with the Patriots, that never happens. They beat us. They split with the Falcons, who are in the playoffs. I know New Orleans has swept them this season, which makes me kind of weary because beating a team 3 times in one season is really hard to do. But if you have to look at based off of the way teams are playing, and Carolina's got to go on the road, I just don't trust them. But I'm rooting for the Panthers to win because I want revenge because I think we will absolutely destroy them.
So my prediction in the NFC for Wild Card Weekend, I've got the Rams beating the Falcons and the Saints beating the Panthers. I got both home teams winning.
Yeah, I got the Saints over the Panthers, and then I would go with the Rams over top of the Falcons as well.
I'm going to do, just because I want to be different, I will take the Saints over the Panthers, but I will take the Falcons over the Rams.
Ooh. That is the one situation I don't want to happen.
I don't I don't believe that's going to happen, but just for the sake of the show, to have something interesting to be said, I do believe the Rams are going to handle Atlanta pretty fairly. Todd Gurley's MVP, yeah? What do you guys think about him? What, you don't?
I think he's going to be the MVP.
You think so?
Yeah.
Todd Gurley.
It's all thanks to Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that awesome head coach that came in and.
No, it's all Jeff Fisher.
Shout out to Jeff Fisher for making an appearance on the show.
So let's look over at the AFC now. 13 and
Patriots.
We got the
everything.
Patriots both tied for those records. Of course, Patriots are the number 1 seed, so everything's going to go through Foxborough. But Wild Card Weekend will feature 4 teams that are going to make for really interesting games, I think. We've got the Chiefs hosting the Titans, which is going to be a fun and interesting game. But I think the one that a lot of people are going to be watching that nobody expected to happen were the Jaguars hosting the Bills.
I'm excited for that one. Weekend. I'm pulling for the Jaguars.
I am too.
Yeah.
No, I'm pulling for the Bills because they haven't been in almost 20 years, and everybody's expecting the Jags to throttle the Bills. So I kind of hope the opposite happens. I hope that the Bills win on a late field goal.
The Bills' offense is banged up. Jaguars' defense is too good. I don't know. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. I do believe in reality the Jaguars will handily beat them. However, I'm going to root for the Bills. I have a friend who's a diehard Bills fan, was super pumped this weekend. Says nice things about the Vikings because we're not in the same conference, and it's just a feel-good story seeing how happy everybody was. But yes, I believe that the Jags are going to handle them pretty easily.
And now back to the Chiefs and Titans, and I don't really feel like this is going to be much of a game.
Chiefs? Question mark?
Yeah, I definitely got the Chiefs in this one. Chiefs
but
at home. They're going to run
excited
all over Tennessee. That's the way it's going to be.
So we have the Chiefs over the Titans, the Jags over the Bills, the Saints over the Panthers, and most of the consensus is the Rams over the Falcons. I'll say the Falcons will win to spice it up. This is going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of these games. The schedule, I don't actually have in front of me. I don't know which games are which day.
I'll tell you right now, just stall for a little bit.
But the one thing that I know for sure is that the NFC is going to have the Eagles facing off against the lowest seed. So it's weird that they don't have a chance at all of playing against the Rams, because I believe the Rams would throttle the Eagles pretty well too.
Yeah,
I think so too, now that Carson Wentz is done. But I have that up for you here. So on Saturday at 4:35 p.m. Eastern time, we have the Titans going to the Chiefs. And then at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time, the Falcons will visit the Rams.
All right.
The early game on Sunday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern is the Bills visiting the Jaguars, which means at 4:40 p.m. the Panthers will visit the Saints.
Not bad.
Oh,
and so the Vikings play next week at what time?
they play on Sunday,
Yes.
so we actually get the full amount of time.
Was that at
let's go
4?
to-
Was it 4 o'clock?
Yeah, hold on. Let me pull this up real quick as well.
Yeah, the Vikings were lucky to get that Sunday slot. Personally, playing on Saturday and not always optimal. But to be honest, after the long break, I would have preferred the Vikings play on Saturday, give them an extra day after the divisional round game, heading into the conference game. But
We're the last game, guys. We are at 4:40 p.m. Eastern on Sunday.
That makes me nervous, and it shouldn't, but it does.
The Eagles will host whomever on Saturday in the early game. The late game is the Pats. The early game is the Steelers on Sunday, and we are the late game. So we're getting some primetime action in the playoff, guys.
That makes me nervous a little bit.
Gotta have faith, man. This is a home game. We're going to defend.
Don't know what to think about that. Can't we play at noon or something?
there's a lot of love for the Bills in the chat.
Hell yeah. Go Buffalo. Oh, speaking of, since we were talking shit about Andy Dalton earlier, and I have to because I don't understand why the hell Cincinnati kept Marvin Lewis for 2 more years. Hire me if you want me to underperform and keep me employed, please. I will gladly go there because I have the same number of playoff wins as Marvin Lewis. Just saying.
Hey, Packers are looking for front office players. Anthony Barr just completely dismantled the front office when he took out Aaron Rodgers. So,
but yeah, it's a fun fact. The Buffalo Bills are going to send the Cincinnati Bengals buffalo wings for getting them into the playoffs.
they are. I thought that was cool, and a lot of Buffalo fans are donating money to Andy Dalton's charity.
Hey, I love that. I think that's amazing.
That's pretty sweet. That's the best news of the show. That's pretty awesome.
And I also saw, this is not related to the Bills at all, but owners of Todd Gurley in fantasy leagues have been donating money as well to his charity for helping them win their Super Bowls because he had an amazing Week 16, and I thought that was really cool. And he's always been a guy that hates fantasy football. Todd Gurley's like, this is a sport for me, and people would tweet him about, oh, you lost me my game, or you should have gotten me this many more points. And he finally said, hey, fantasy football can be a good thing. And it's heartwarming, man. I love these stories of people returning the favor.
Mm-hmm.
We got Scott Schwab in the chat that says, I like having the game on Sunday. It's more consistent with the rest of the regular season. And yeah, it probably feels a lot more like just having a bye week rather than, having to wait an extra day or a day fewer. I don't know. Maybe there are players that work on that kind of schedule or something too, like an internal clock.
I would think so.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something like that going on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the playoff picture. Who do you think the Vikings will be playing in the divisional round?
So we take the highest seed?
Yep, it's going to be either the Rams, the Saints, or the Panthers. No chance at all of playing the Falcons.
And who is the highest seed out of this? The Rams. I think we're going to play the Rams.
Yep, that's where I'm thinking.
No, I think it'll be I think it'll be the Saints.
That would be something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that, but yes.
Neither do I. But I think that's how it's going to shake out. I think we'll end up playing the Saints.
The main thing is the Vikings love to play whoever ends up in front of them, and I firmly believe that this team can get things.
I've got one for you guys. I'll make a bold statement this week. Kyle, you're right. We will play the Saints, and we will play the Saints in the NFC Championship game in Minnesota.
Ooh. That's probably the most likely outcome.
I think they're going to beat the Eagles. They're going to play the Eagles. I think they'll do just fine against the Panthers. I think, like I said earlier, it's really hard to win against a team 3 times in a year just because of Murphy's Law and any given Sunday. But this is at home in New Orleans, and they've had the Panthers number for a while. So they would beat the Panthers, go on to play the Eagles. I think they're too high-powered, even though the Eagles' D is really good, especially that defensive line. I think they squeak a win out in Philadelphia, and then the Vikings have home field throughout.
I got to say, playing the Saints in the NFC Championship game is going to be scary. I don't like those memories.
It's fitting, though, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be fitting if we beat them on our way to the Super Bowl?
That's what you got to have faith, man. That's my whole statement for this show, getting ready for the postseason. You got to be confident and love the team because it just feels magical this year. I know we said that before when we squeaked in the playoffs with a wild card by a slot or whatever, but it just feels like everything's lining up. And knock on wood, I hope that doesn't get ended early. I hope we get the championship we've been waiting on for a long time. But it all seems like it's lining up. But you gotta love that home field advantage. We've only lost one at home this year, and it wasn't like we got handled at home. It was against Detroit, and divisional opponent. They know you pretty well. I wasn't too upset about that. We're pretty damn good at home. So,
it's gonna be. Scott just said in the chat, can you believe how loud the stadium and the crowd is going to be if it's the Saints? It's just going to be the fans are going to blow the roof off U.S. Bank Stadium if we end up playing the Saints.
Every time Mike Zimmer has called out fans to be loud, it seems to be just louder.
Yeah.
And you got the players on the sidelines getting everyone pumped up, and U.S. Bank Stadium itself is just great for making that echoing noise. Now, if the Vikings fans could keep a little quieter when Minnesota's on offense, that'd be nice. Be a little nice. I don't believe we're going to touch on Blair Walsh news today.
Good job, Blair.
He's not on the team.
He's not our problem anymore. Yeah,
don't need to talk about Blair.
Lost us a playoff game and won Seattle a playoff game a couple years ago. Now you lost.
You're talking about it. You're talking about it. Don't talk about it.
Nope, Blair Walsh's Fight Club.
Fuck.
That's all I have for this week.
Yeah. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and New Year's. Welcome to 2018. And as always, for all the people in the chat, I'm going to bug these guys because it's so funny that my dog – is he alive? Bronx. All right, good news. He's alive. Thanks for everybody for
did we have a social media question or anything like that?
We did. I don't know what we got for replies.
Ooh. Let's pull that.
I'm not in charge of that. That's you guys, man.
I have slowly Homer Simpson myself back into the bushes and let Kyle take over that because I started stuck at it. But
hey, we've been a lot more active on the Facebook page. I've seen a lot more cool things being posted. I'm trying to keep people a little bit more updated on the Discord chat and the Survival League, posting those a little more often. So it's good to see all that happening.
So as we do with everything on this show, I take 1/3 credit because all I do is show up, kind of like in my old band. I just showed up and sang and left because I love these guys for taking care of all the dirty work. But we came up with an idea a couple weeks ago. I think we started at the Thanksgiving game for Discord. If you don't have the website or the app, Discord. It's pretty awesome. We like to chat with you guys during the game. I think, was it Scott that was at the game this Sunday?
Yeah, that was Scott.
Yeah, Scott was actually there. He was sending us photos from where he was freezing his ass off outside to where he walked in. He showed us the seats. He zoomed in and got a picture of Teddy, and then the guys doing the coin toss. Thank you for that, Scott. Shout out to Scott for doing that. But for everybody that joins us during the show and for everybody that gets in the Discord chat, if you're not involved with the Discord chat, we'll put a link up during every game, and you guys can join us on there. It's a lot of fun, and you can kind of let loose. And it's a way for you guys to talk to us directly, and there's not as much of a gap like there's on the show since we have to knock out topics. I'm just kind of BSing through. I'm trying to find your social media question.
I got it right here. Let's talk about what got posted here. It says social media question of the week. Pat Shurmur scheduled to meet with the Lions and Cardinals on Thursday, Bears on Friday, Giants on Saturday for head coaching positions. It says part 2, which I didn't think there was a question in part 1, but let's keep going. Two-parter. That's what it means. Do you think Pat Shurmur will leave the Vikings? And if he does, which team do you think he'll be most likely to sign with? And there's a bonus part. Who do you think the Vikings will sign to replace Shermer? Okay, this is a big old question. So Paul Gruber says, I think he may go to Arizona. Wish he'd offered the Vikings assistant head coach offense position to stay. And Danny Yang gave that a big thumbs up and wants that to happen. Jaron says, I really want Pat to stay, but a lot of teams will be paying him that cheddar. If he does stay, I'll be shocked. But if he doesn't, I'll understand. It'll just suck. Thomas Bush says, I think the only job worth taking is Detroit. I think these interviews are just to determine how much money we owe him, though.
That's an awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and like that. Good job, Thomas.
Yeah.
And finally, Brent Foster says he's gone. Bears are wanting to interview him. And Edwards, I'd like to see Shermer's assistant rise up.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. I know the show's going on forever.
Yeah, we got a long one.
I don't think he's going to stay with us, but I think the thing you look at the best with all the coaching positions, and I'll even include the Raiders, even though we know John Gruden's going to be taking that because that's been confirmed by Adam Schefter. And I saw it on Golic and Wingo today. They were actually interviewing him and asking John Gruden himself. But the first thing that you look at when you're looking at a roster, now they're going to let you, if you're the head coach, more than likely bring in your own coaches. You can pick whoever you want to come in. But I'm looking to make sure I got a caliber quarterback that I can trust. And the two out of all of those that I see that have the best quarterbacks were Oakland. Actually, I'm going to put that first. Detroit, I think Matt Stafford's way better than Derek Carr. And Derek Carr second. The Oakland job is done. John Gruden's going there. So I agree. I think he's going to go to Detroit if he wants a team that he knows can squeak in the playoff.
I'm not really a huge fan of any of those situations for him. But then again, good teams aren't often looking for head coaches.
Yeah.
I don't like him staying in the division because he's going to get beat twice a year by the Vikings, and that just won't be good for his psyche.
But if we're being absolutely honest here, I could see the Cardinals trading up and getting a quarterback and having Shermer try to develop that quarterback in a system that's easy to learn in a short period of time. And I think it would be a good fit. If I were Pat Shermer and all the options were pretty close to the same as far as, wages, options, people around you, everything else equal, I'd probably take that Arizona job.
No, that'd be good because he's not in our division anymore. That sounds great.
That's where I would go.
I would stay in Minnesota.
If we found a way to pay him, yeah. That'd be pretty sweet.
Hey, sometimes it's hard to pass up all those opportunities. And look what Minnesota's had to do with a lot of people inside their organization. Like they had to raise people up to assistant general manager and just throw a boatload of money at them to get them to stay. It's these players that are these coaches, GMs, staff that are so valuable to the team. But, behind the scenes, the front office has to pay these people, try to influence them to stay. Because even if you lose a really good scout, that could be the difference between an excellent draft pick and, picking someone that sets your franchise back.
Just so you guys know, and then I'll be done talking in the show because I keep wanting to talk about all this stuff because it's been a crazy week and we're all excited for the playoffs.
Yeah, we waited a little bit longer. I mean, it's the end of the season. We got the playoffs coming up.
We got a bye too, so we're not going to have a lot to talk about minus this wild card weekend next week. So, but for the head coaching stuff that we're talking about, the 6 teams that are available, John Gruden's going to Oakland. Detroit is open. Chicago is open. The Giants, the Colts. There's another one down, and I had it open, but it was playing an ad. I'm trying to think of the last team. Oh, the Cardinals. So, of all of those places, like I was saying, if you got to pick one, I'm going with a good quarterback because Eli Manning's almost done. I wouldn't know if Andrew Luck's ever going to play again. You don't have anybody in Arizona. I mean, I like Mitchell Trubisky, but
I'm taking a rookie quarterback with David Johnson in that offensive line and some of those good players on defense. Man, Arizona is my choice.
That's not a bad choice at all.
I still like Oakland.
Mr. West is steadfast on him staying in Minnesota.
Yeah, just stay in Minnesota. I don't know. I like Oakland. I think I'll be really interested, like everyone else, to see if they really sign John Gruden and what happens with that whole dynamic. That'll be fun to watch.
Well, Minnesota can't go offering people ownership in their franchise to come play or come coach and be part of the staff. I mean, the fact that Oakland's willing to do that. It's amazing.
That's crazy. Yeah.
They want big time. But
Maybe
of course,
the Packers
there is
can...
hope that Shermer's happy where he's at. You know, sometimes
really
people enjoy their position. They like where they're at. And a change isn't the best thing. I mean, Shermer's been a head coach before. Maybe that's not exactly what he wants, but he wants to evaluate the situations. You never know.
Yeah.
So I think this show probably went about 4 hours.
You guys are welcome.
Hey, we got to keep talking in the chat. So...
Hey, that's better than the shut up we got earlier.
They don't want us to stop. We can keep going.
That's what she said. And earlier, somebody told us to shut up, so that's what you get. And we're just going to give you the longest show ever now.
That's the way it works, man. It's the way it works.
Oh, I got to give a shout out too. Thank you guys. I got this from Kyle before I went on vacation. The Legacy brick is here. It's on my desk.
There it is.
Very pretty sweet. So I got.
Yeah, you can find that outside US Bank Stadium or by the Viking ship, I believe, in the section closer to the stadium itself, which is pretty cool. So if you find it, track it down, snap a picture. You know,
have we ever found our brick?
What's that?
Has anyone ever found our brick?
No, I keep asking you for the location of it on your letter, and you said you lost the letter.
I did lose the letter.
So I go there and I look, but I haven't found it. But I remember you saying it was on the ship closer to the stadium.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere there. Somewhere out there.
I'll end the show on this one because I don't know that we exactly said this one, but this is the second most wins in Viking history. This season feels really good. 15-1 in 1999. We're better than the team 8 years ago with Brett Favre, guys.
Yeah, the Vikings setting records for third down stops. I mean, this team, I know that a lot of people have been saying this, but the Vikings are the most complete team, at least in the NFC.
Yeah.
So they're saying that. And also, I believe that the Vikings are the most consistent team. I mean, there was only one uncharacteristic Minnesota game this season, and in my opinion, that was against Carolina.
Yep.
And that was completely out of character for the Vikings. But, you know, that's what we got. Scott Schwab says, what? I wish I knew about it because he probably would have found it.
Damn it. Scott, you're going to be our search party next time.
Yeah, next time you come, got to track it down because I'm not paying those prices for a divisional, a conference, or the Super Bowl. I don't got $5,000 to throw down for a Super Bowl ticket.
If any of you guys have tickets and you want to look for this Legacy brick, take a picture. We'll put it on the page. That'd be sweet.
With your credit, man.
Mm-hmm.
With your credit. The coolest thing right now, and I know I keep going along and talking about all that, but the Vikings campaign for the Super Bowl is called Bring It Home, and they've put out a lot of really cool graphics. It's got the state of Minnesota and the graphic on it with some lines that make it look like it's kind of icy. The Vikings logo, and it's over the Duluth area on the map. It's kind of cool. I really enjoy it. The banner on their Facebook page right now shows Jerick McKinnon. And I hope the Vikings can bring it home. I've been waiting my whole life for them to bring it home. So bring it home.
Let's do it.
On that note, I want to remind you guys to check us out on Facebook, Purple People Podcast. We got all that kind of cool stuff going on over there. Mr. Kyle West and Mr. Kyle Smith have been posting stuff up there every once in a while to keep people interested, whether it's some photos, questions, facts, and I love all that stuff. You can check us out on Twitter at Purple People Pod. We've also got our individual Twitters, and if you're listening to this right now, there's probably a big old chunk of words below wherever you're watching it, and all of our Twitter handles are in that down there. You can check out my work on the Viking Age as well as Undead Walking, and I gotta say, if you have read issue 175 of The Walking Dead, which came out today, you are probably still stunned because that was amazing. And on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining us. So we've got so many great people in the chat. Scott Schwab has been here with us a long time. We got Hobna, Little Pump, just tons of people in here. Fire Breather, I'm only scrolling a little bit at a time. Sergio Moreno, and Sean Reynolds. I'm loving that our live chat keeps growing all the time, and that we can answer questions and interact and really build a Vikings community. So thank you so much, everyone. And on that note, I'd like to say, stay classy, Minnesota.